Hello and welcome to the Getting Started with Family Law Software for Colorado webinar. My name is Barbara Stark and I am going to spend a little time with you giving you an overview of the program and a little bit of tips with regard to your working on learning how to use it. So we are looking at the desktop version of the program. We also have a cloud version of the program, and almost everything I'm going to be showing you in this webinar is going to be the same for the cloud and the desktop. I am in a file called Getting Started, and what we're going to do is do an overview of the top tabs here, and then I'll dive a little bit deeper and give you some hints for learning the program and mention a couple of the Colorado specific things that you want to be on the lookout for. So there are 4 tabs across the top of this program. The first is Files and Settings. I call this the administrative tab. It's the place where you administer your files and the program. The second tab is client information. I call this tab the database. This is where you enter data and edit data in your file, and that data will then populate all of the calculators and reports that are in the program. The Negotiate tab, I call this tab the Lawyer tab, and the reason for that is that all of these calculators on the left are very powerful tools for negotiating child support and maintenance, which those tools are here under the word income, and negotiating property division, because the assets in the database that you put in for the sworn financial statement populate the calculators and the spreadsheets that we produce without the necessity of having Excel and those formulas. Then the final section is the reports section. We have official forms at the top, and we have all of the data that populates many other, I'll call them regular, non-official reports in the program. So those are the 4 tabs that are across here. And now we'll go back and take a little closer look at these tabs in terms of getting some idea of what is happening in the program. So I've just gone to Files and Settings, and I right away want to show you some things to keep in mind as you are learning. So on this screen, which is the Open, Save, and Send screen, that's what it says on the left. It also says here, Create, Open, and Save Files. You will see a how-to video on the right. Most screens have a how-to video, so if you're learning the program, I think a good thing to do is to first watch that video. The second thing that you can do is go to this Help on this Screen button. This will take you to the web and give you some information that will help you with the screen that you are on. And then you can start to read the screen, because much of what you need to know is right on the screen if you read it. But if you still have questions, the program has blue question marks. I'll click this one. And what those blue question marks do is give you more information about wherever you are. And you can see on this screen that there are blue question marks sprinkled all the way through it. So I highly suggest that you sort of work your way through that way as you are learning the program. So here on this screen, we can see a lot of buttons, and I just want to point 2 out to you for today. The first is the New Client File button, because you just click this button that says New, and you put the parties' names in, and then you can start to put the data into the program. But I also want to show you this New Client button. This is where, oops, I got to go back to Files and Settings. This New Client button There we go. I got this big cursor, so sometimes it clicks on the wrong thing. This new client button is where you would send an email to your client to fill in the data on his or her computer. This will save you a lot of time at the beginning of a case in terms of not having to enter in all of the data yourself. Because ultimately, when the client is through with that exercise, you will retrieve the file and the program will be populated, and then you can start to edit the data. I do highly recommend that you send this email to yourself at your personal email address so that you can experience it yourself by putting in some data and sending it back so that you'll have familiarity with how all that works before you give that assignment to a client. We also have here a set of the settings section, and you'll want to look through professional information, report options, and court information. Those are our three most important sections there. And then there's an update software button. Now, I'm in the desktop version. If you were in the cloud version, you would never have to worry about updating the software. We kind of recommend that you update it about once a month. We'll send you a message if there's a major change to the program, but we're always sort of tweaking it, and it doesn't hurt to update it periodically if you have the desktop. And then down here is the help and support button. So if you've read the screen and looked at the video and read the blue question marks and you still have questions, you can email us or send us your file. Sending us your file is really the best thing you can do because it's hard for us to help you when we don't know what you're doing in your file. So you strip the file, send it to us, and then we can take a look at it. I would also mention this FAQ, frequently asked questions. There are lots of helpful points in there, but at the very bottom of that very long list, there's a Colorado specific section, and you should make a note of that because I think if you read that Colorado specific section, you'll get some extra information about Colorado that will be very helpful for you. So that's the files and settings area. Now, in client information, there are two sections. There's child support and maintenance, and there's the sworn financial statement. Data entries in either section populate the other section. So what I mean by that is that Betty's wages are $2,000 a month. In the child support screen, that means that her income in the sworn financial statement is also $2,000 a month because these two sections talk to each other. For learning the program, I recommend that you start here and decide on one of these two issues to work on first, either the sworn financial statement or the child support section, and just slowly work your way through the screens. And by the time you get to the end of that exercise, you'll have a pretty good handle of what's going on. Right here on the child support and maintenance screen, you can see the child support and maintenance amount shows on the bottom here so that I don't have to look at the worksheet. But at the bottom, I can just click and I can actually look at the worksheet. So I have a choice of either looking at the worksheet itself or just seeing at the bottom what the amount of child support and maintenance is. One rule in family law software that I want to mention right here is that you don't change a number in a blue field. So you can see where Betty's income is $2,000. The reason that you don't change it on a blue field, which means you don't change it on the form, is that these blue fields are the results of formulas. And if you overwrite this number, you're going to actually mess up, one could say ruin, the formulas for the entire program. So if I want to change Betty's income, I don't change it in a blue field. I go back to her income which is right here under wages, and I change it here. And when I do it, the child support and maintenance will change. And when I go to the child support worksheet, she's now making $3,000 a month. Now, there are exceptions to every rule, but that's a little bit advanced family law software. In situations where we know why we are messing up the formula, we do overwrite in a blue field, but that is very rare. And that rule would apply in the sworn financial statement as well. The other little tip I would give you about child support and maintenance in Colorado is that there's a quick case button here. So let's say you have a new client sitting in front of you, there's no file that's been opened. The quick case button will allow you, if I were to click it, to just throw in data very quickly and get pretty much of an instant result of child support and maintenance. So your project, again, is to watch the video, read the help on the screen, read what the screen says, read the blue question marks, and then work your way through each section. Open it, work on it, close it, and move to the next section. That'll be the best way to learn Colorado child support and maintenance. Now, on the sworn financial statement, you'll do the same thing. You'll start at background and child, then you'll go to income and expenses, if that's where you want to go next. I actually like to go to assets and debts next, but you can go to income and expenses. And in each case, there's the video, the help on the screen, and the blue question marks. I do want to point out something about the Colorado program with regard to the sworn financial statement that will be very helpful to you. And that's this section called Form Information. And we're working on John's sworn financial statement. At the top of this file, there are two boxes that are checked by default, and I just want to talk to you about those so that you're aware of how important they are. The first one says itemize expenses on the sworn financial statement recommended. In my opinion, you should never declick this button because here's what it does. It expands the number of categories and boxes for expenses on the sworn financial statement. What do I mean by that? Well, you can see here in the groceries section that instead of just having one entry for groceries, there are 4 different lines of entries. And I can just put in a number weekly, monthly, or annually, and all those numbers happen. And all the way through the sworn financial statement, each entry gets its own footnote. I clicked FN for footnote, and those footnotes can be as long as you want. So you never want to limit yourself in terms of the flexibility that you will have on expenses on your sworn financial statement. The second thing is the box that says use expanded format for the assets on the sworn financial statement. Well, what do we mean by that? Let me go to this sworn financial statement. And hold on, I'm going to make you dizzy for a second because I'm going to scroll down. We're looking at the screen. This is not how it, we're looking at the screen, going all the way down to the asset section. I'm almost there. All right. So in this asset section, there is a column for, let's just look at cash on this checking and savings and cash on hand section. There's a column for the current balance, the non-marital value, and the net marital. This is not the official Colorado sworn financial statement. This is the unofficial format for the asset section that has been used in Colorado for actually quite a number of decades. So If you're doing a divorce, because in a divorce you would have potentially some separate property, you're going to want to use this format. So back in client information, this is the expanded format. The other benefit of this format is that instead of printing two forms, because as you know, the official Colorado sworn financial statement is two forms, not one form. It is one long form, so you don't have to worry about the second one. Now, in a situation where the parties are unmarried or it's a post-dissolution matter, in that situation, you would de-click this button to use the official Colorado Sworn Financial Statement, because in that situation, there is no separate property, so it would be appropriate to use the official format. So those are the two features of form information that I wanted to point out to you. There are other features here in this section, but you can watch the video and read the help and read the screen. And this, sometimes I call this screen the Making the Sworn Financial Statement Pretty screen. That's basically what the form information does. Now let's say that you have mastered the child support and maintenance calculation and the sworn financial statement data entry. This is our basic program. It's time then to move to the negotiate function, which is, as I said before, the attorney functions. Now, in this overview, I'm not really going to go over any of these calculators, except just to mention them to you in terms of an overview. The most important place to start for maintenance and support is an income summary, because this is where our data is tax impacted to show us how much each party has to spend after tax. A critical analysis in order for the parties to know what they have to spend. It's important in all cases, but it's particularly important in higher income cases where there's no formula to guide you. And these after-tax cash flows are going to be important in all the rest of the calculators. So when you move into the Negotiate tab, you're going to want to start with this video and this help and learn all of these functions and understand them, and then you can move on to the other calculators. Just to point out a couple of them, one is called Guideline What If. This allows you to add as many scenarios as you want, change the number of overnights, change the income, change health insurance or childcare, and automatically see the difference in the formula for child support and maintenance. Very powerful tool for looking at alternatives in that area. We also have maintenance needed, which is 4 different calculators which allow you to solve for after-tax cash flow to meet a particular goal that you might have in terms of coming up with a support amount. And finally, there is the what if analysis, which is a very powerful screen for putting in any number of different child support and maintenance amounts and seeing what the after-tax cash flow would be. This is also a great tool for negotiating who gets the dependency exemption, because the child credit goes with it, and this is a great tool for that purpose. One final page that I will point out to you with regard to Colorado is the arrearage calculation. This is an incredibly complete arrearage calculator, way more complete than any other arrearage calculator software in Colorado. But because it's so complete, you need to take a little bit of time to learn it. So I highly stress that before you start putting data in here, you look at the video, read the help, and actually work your way through these screens to understand them. And then you will be very pleased with the completeness and accuracy of your arrearage calculation. Now in the property area, we have a property division calculator screen, which is very easy to use. You can move assets by percentage or by amount. And as you move these assets, it will tell you how much more movement you need to make to reach a particular target. And when you're done with your property division exercise, you can instantaneously print a whole variety of after-tax property division reports. This is one example. This is a division of marital property report, but there are many other different formats that you can use depending on what you prefer. So that is the divide property calculator, very, very powerful for looking at property division alternatives. We also have other property division calculators that you can explore in this section as well. Now, just moving off to the reports section. Here in the reports section, we have the child support guideline, of course. The maintenance worksheet is here. And we also have the certificate of compliance, which is here as well. And then finally, the sworn financial statement that we talked about before. So, and there's even a video here that you can look at, read the help, read all these screens to understand how these official forms work. But then in addition to the official forms, we have many other forms. We have the View Edit Tax Report, which is very important for after-tax cash flow planning. This is where you can actually check to make sure you didn't make any mistakes when you put the data in, so that you or any other reader of your after-tax cash flow know that the data entries are correct. This is the budget report, which is way more than a budget report. It does have the expenses of the parties in here, but it also can have their income, it can have the child support and the maintenance. There are many different formats that you can adapt for this report. And a lot of times it's a lot easier to look at this data in these kinds of reports than to necessarily look at them in the official format when you're working through the case. And then we have a more report section because, as you can see, there are any number of additional reports that we have. Every tax number we do is supported by a report. So that's the overview of all the things that we do. This is going to be the end of the webinar, and if you have any questions as you're working through your learning curve, don't forget you can contact support by going here and sending us your file, and you're also more than welcome to contact me. My email address is barbara.stark@familylawsoftware.com. So thank you for listening, and let me know if you have any other questions.